Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look at Bitcoin here. Kind of keep a close eye on this guy here, because honestly, it's kind of on a razor's edge right now. 40,600, 40,500, right in that range is essentially a key level support. We cannot lose that, but it's having trouble making higher highs and higher lows, and we got some crazy news coming up this week. So just trying to get perspective on kind of what's going on. And let's go ahead and take a quick look at the 1 week chart first, kind of identify some of the key level indicators and kind of go from there. We're now effectively below the 50-day simple moving average on the 1 week chart, which is never a good sign. I know we've been like that for a little while, but this 1 week candlestick is soon to close. So just bear that in mind. There's no likelihood of coming back up above that, and that basically just implies that we're now officially bearish on the macro, at least the longer term, in that sense too. And again, I'm not just saying that we're like totally no longer any type of bullish sentiment from Bitcoin, but the likelihood of it coming back and recovering and bouncing back is very low at this point. And when you're traditionally speaking, when you're under the 50-day simple moving average on the 1 week chart, you can kind of see and identify that the trend has shifted, right? So we've pretty much effectively lost that. So don't love that, of course. RSI is well under 50 as well. That pretty much implies that we are more so bearish divergence. And we haven't seen that in quite some time. Last time we saw that, of course, was in this stretch from May all the way up to July before it continued to progress back upwards. Okay. So I would say in this sentiment, right, if you were to kind of take that similar concept and apply it, we are not very far into this progression here. In other words, if you kind of look at this pattern here, we are kind of right there. Whereas we still got, at least I would say, nothing less or short of 2 to 4 weeks more so of bearish divergence, or a best case scenario, consolidation. Because you got to understand, the harder something falls down, the longer it takes to recover, and this is falling quite rapidly. And I think the likelihood of it bouncing back is very, very low at this point. Again, not trying to be pessimistic, just letting you know specifically what the charts are telling us, and it's not telling us that we have a lot of momentum in the upside, right? It's all going down. So we just got to realize that and acknowledge that and just kind of prepare for that. Okay. So, I traditionally like to say dollar cost average, but at this point, until this week is over, I would say until next Friday, for example, we have some kind of understanding of where the price is going to be at, because it takes at least a week or two to consolidate anyways. After this kind of large sell-off, I would recommend just holding onto your funds. Put some money aside in Tether. Don't spend it. Don't get that itchy trigger finger, and just kind of relax and take it easy for a while. We got to accept the fact that this is the reality of the market, and we can't really control that, right? The only thing we can control is our emotions, and you feel a lot less emotional when your money isn't tied up. So feel free to set some stuff aside. Not saying you want to sell everything. Nothing wrong with that. You probably should have done that a while ago anyways, but who's to say, right? Hindsight's 2020. Now that we're here, deal with what you can, control your emotions if possible, and put some money aside and just hold on to it. All right, so looking at the 1 day chart here, we're below both moving averages here as well. Of course, we got the potential death cross that's going to occur soon with the 50 intersecting with the 200 in a downward fashion. We are under 30 on the RSI on the 1 day. That is rare. You don't see that too often. In fact, if I'm recalling correctly, the only time we saw that recently was when the price came down with the lowest major sell-off in May 19th, which was our first judgment day, so to speak, right? Where the whole market was just completely destroyed, for lack of better terms, and it didn't get much better from there, right? And get this, from that point in which the price hit 30 or under 30 on the RSI, from May 19th, it took all the way up until July 22nd. Okay, so that's almost 2 months of consolidation / downward momentum. And again, when I mentioned this before, we got this similar pattern here where the price came up and then down, and we're seeing this here as well, up and then down. So hypothetically, we could see a little bit of a dead cat, price come back down to bounce off 41 and or 36, and then we see a recovery to the upside. That is potentially a likelihood if we're to see a repeat in behavior. But just note, RSI being under 30 on the 1 day is not good at all. Basically just implying the fact that it will not recover immediately. Okay, you need to understand that. And I know a lot of you think the sense of the general sense of an RSI, right? When it's under 30 or at 30, it's considered a good value because it's considered to be oversold. That's normally true on shorter time frames, right? Because shorter time frames can recover quicker. Longer time frames, it's the inverse. The lower you go on longer time frames, the longer it takes for it to recover. Okay, because again, it's slower moving averages, things are happening slower, and in turn, we cannot expect it just to bounce right off of 30. It could very well continue lower. right? So just being real with you in that sense, not trying to concern you at all, just shooting you straight, right? That's the whole point of this. All right, now moving on to the 4-hour chart. Also the same scenario as well. Pretty much every chart reads the same right now, whereas the price is under the moving averages. So until the price can get up over the 50 on the 4-hour chart, I'm not going to feel comfortable taking a position with Bitcoin and a few other altcoins too, honestly. There's going to be some shining stars, don't get me wrong. And I do think alt season will be on the horizon as well, based on the fact that Bitcoin is progressing, a lot of dominance is coming away from Bitcoin, right? As the dominance starts to recede, we see, dominance under 40%. Then we start to see altcoins taking off because that money's coming away from Bitcoin. It's usually not leaving the market. It's going right over to altcoins and investing, and then they start taking off. That's kind of how that happens, because they're supposed to have a blow off top from Bitcoin first, right? And then once that blow off top occurs, then a bunch of dominance comes away from Bitcoin, goes to altcoins. We haven't really seen a blow off top yet. We may not, actually. In fact, the 4-year cycle may not come to fruition. I don't think it's very likely at this point, based on the way the market is now, right? We're in a much different world now than we were 4 or 8 years ago. We just got to be kind of understand that, and just realize that not every single history has to repeat itself. It oftentimes does, yes. Patterns repeat themselves all the time in crypto or trading, but we're in a much different world right now. We got to realize that and understand that we may not see a blow up top from Bitcoin this year, and that's okay. I think alt season is very much still likely to occur based on the fact that we have so many more traders in the industry now, right? So it makes sense why we don't have a blow off top, because the simple fact that we have so many more traders in the market and we have a lot more liquidity, so to speak, is changing the dynamic, is changing the game. All right, so just some things I've noticed over the years, but regardless of that speculation, on the 4-hour chart, we're still low on the RSI. On the 30, we could see a potential recovery, like a small bounce, but I wouldn't get too super excited about that. The likelihood of it passing 43,000 is very low. In fact, you can see it tried a couple right around 8 hours in a row. It couldn't even pass 42,800. And right now, at this point, we can kind of see there's a potential wall here. In other words, kind of a sell wall that's forming right around 42,300 or 42,002. You could round number to say 42,000 as a rough estimate, because that seems to be a potential resistance for now. And if we can continue to see the price reject off of that, we can expect the price to digress lower and effectively kind of find some type of, digression, so to speak. We could very well lose 40,500 in the near future. I think it's more likely for us to lose that than we are to bounce back and start making higher highs and higher lows. If we actually start making higher highs and higher lows in the short term, I'm going to be more concerned with that, because the likelihood of a dead cat is much greater. Okay, because again, you shouldn't expect to see a price recover this fast or very fast in this scenario. We have to expect consolidation, a firm foundation of volume, before we can expect the price to increase again. Okay. All right, so all in all, that's kind of where we're at there. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the 1 hour. Ichimoku is probably going to be a mess. Yep, we are still, the conversion line's above the base line, but it does look like that's changing now, and we're still underneath the clouds. So there's literally no buy signal here. We haven't seen a buy signal in a very long time on the 1 hour chart for Bitcoin. And the reason why is a conservative indicator, right? It tells us when we want to take entry based on the bears or the bulls being in control. The bulls have not had control for weeks and or almost months now, okay? There was a short, area up to 52,000 recently where we saw, Bitcoin trying, but that lasted 4 or 5 days, and that was it. That was the best glimmer of hope that we've seen in the last 2 months. And unfortunately, that's in the past, and we got to deal with what we have right now, and there's not much going on right now, okay? So significant bearish divergence. There's really nothing we can see here. And if we go to the 15-minute chart, I'm willing to guess we're going to be well under the volume weighted average price line, and we're slowly losing that as well. So we literally have zero support outside of this support level here at 40,600, and I truly don't feel like that's going to be a super strong support. It's been tested one time here, and of course it's been tested previously as well. That's how it was drawn out, based on the simple fact that after the El Salvador candle occurred, the price continued to progress downwards here, right around 40,600, and that was the lowest point in which it went for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 trading days, and then it recovered. Okay, so we can get 7, better yet 14 trading days of consolidation at this support level, an increased amount of volume, then I'm going to feel a lot better. But we got to understand that there's a strong volume sell wall right around 47,000. So if the price were to come back up there, that's our first major resistance level. Obviously, there's a lot of little ones too between now and there, but ultimately, we are looking at a position where, Bitcoin needs to kind of consolidate, for lack of better terms, for at least a couple of weeks before we can get any kind of confidence in the market and for that to come back up again. So the big catalyst here, of course, is on Wednesday. We see the news, what's going to happen with that. We need to understand that that could very well shift the market. It'll likely shift the market prior to that event. And then, of course, we'll see the residual once that takes place. So ultimately, we need to kind of pay attention to that and kind of see, I would say, sit on your thumbs between now and then, maybe do some paper trading to get some practice in. But between now and then, there's not much else we can truly do. You can consider dollar cost averaging, but I honestly think it's not all that super advantageous just yet, based on the fact that we no longer have that strong support of what we originally thought was 46,000. Okay, that's now the resistance, and we got to face the facts. 40,600 is kind of a fragile support level. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep covering Bitcoin regularly because I get a lot of requests for this, and just make sure that we understand more specifically kind of what the micro is looking like. But the micro right now, lower highs, lower lows, there's literally nothing that we can see here. And I'm especially concerned with 30 on the RSI on the 1 day. That is a big concern, and that does tell us that we could essentially see a lot of sideways action from here as a best case scenario, and the likelihood of it coming lower is even greater. Okay. So again, that's just kind of the way it goes. We'll go ahead and pay attention day by day and see how it goes from there. But I do appreciate you watching, and hopefully you learned a thing or two here today. If you want to become a community member, feel free to join, of course, because it's a really cool support system. Everyone's kind of in there learning and growing together. Even in times like this, we all come together and unite, and it's a really awesome dynamic. So super proud of my community for actually coming together and not being super concerned with this recent sell-off. We were all able to sell at a higher point, closer to 46,000, get out before it came too low, and we're adding to our position either now or later. A lot of us are holding on to at least 50% of our portfolio. In other words, holding on to Tether, having at least 50% available for the next potential dip, because the likelihood, I think, of the price coming down further is much higher than the price coming back up immediately. And again, until we get a strong foundation, strong consolidation, that's pretty much what we're looking at here. So I hope you had a good learning experience here, and I thank you so much again for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.